Today I want to talk a bit about my past art journey, where I am now, and where I plan to go from here. Like many of us, my love of art started when I was a kid, and I still have evidence of that. I have a lot of my old art, and for some people it never goes beyond that, but for me it never went away. I filled a lot of sketchbooks in my teens and preteens. I kept going. I filled lots of coloring books. I drew all over my homework in my class notes, bits of paper that I could find on napkins in restaurants and things like that. When I was 8 or so, I got really big into Pokemon and Sailor Moon and other anime, and that's all I wanted to draw. All I wanted to do was draw fan art of Pikachu and Sailor Moon and any other anime that happened to come on TV, because there were no streaming services, obviously. And throughout my teens, I continued to draw the anime style, both fan art and original characters. And eventually I dabbled in realism. I say dabbled because I drew this one portrait of Hugh Laurie as Greg House, and I never did another one in my teens. So far so good, right? Now, your art's not that bad for a kid with no art education. Why'd you stop? These came before these. And it's because these good drawings were direct copies from the original artist. I copied manga covers, I copied stills from pausing recordings of anime I did on the VCR. And they were all from reference. I was directly copying. And when it came to my original characters, I didn't have that. And this is when I was starting to get frustrated. I didn't know why this was happening, and I didn't know how to fix it. All I knew was that I kept trying to draw things from my imagination, and it turned out horribly. Nothing like the other drawings I was making, and it was really disheartening. I had no one to teach me. And before you say the internet, this was all between 1998 and 2006. I think YouTube was just starting at the tail end of 2006, so it was hardly a platform for learning anything on. Not to mention, I did not have internet access because my mother did not want a PC in the house. She didn't want to pay for that. And, her house, her rules, fair enough, right? So by the time I hit 18 and 19-ish, I just kind of gave up. I didn't know what to do to improve, so I just stopped. Looking back, I lived in a big city, and there were probably programs that I could have taken advantage of to teach me art. I know there were definitely art schools, but at that point I was already convinced that I wasn't good enough for this, so I didn't bother. And the other problem was that I was a big-time introvert. I still am an introvert, actually. I've only become a situational extrovert in my adult life, working various retail and lead jobs. So those social interactions, they still don't come very naturally to me, and it is draining, and it is an effort. The problem is, it's my mind. My mind never gave up on art. Oh no, there was always something telling me to draw, to paint, draw, paint, please, do something creative, please. My mind was just screaming for a creative outlet. And for the last 15 years or so, I resisted. Any excuse. Life was getting in the way, I had to work full time, I was too tired, I was busy being a proper adult that didn't indulge these childish hobbies, that pursuing art isn't a valid job, I would tell myself, even though obviously there were animators and things like that. It's ridiculous. I don't know why people feed us these lies. I was telling myself I wasn't qualified, I didn't go to art school, any excuse to just shut down my brain, because I already saw myself as a failure, and that's all I was ever going to be, and I shouldn't even try. I did have little pockets of drawing time here and there in the last 15 years, but not all that much. And about 3 years ago or so, I was in this night shift job where I was getting harassed a lot, and the hours and obviously the night shift were taking a toll on my physical and mental health. I was super tired all the time. I was getting really sick. It did a number on my immune system, and eventually I just kind of snapped, and I went on an art supply collecting bender. Because I was ignoring my feelings for so long, and now I was in this really crappy place physically and mentally, and I so desperately wanted to find something, anything I enjoyed doing. By the way, please don't do that. It's very expensive. I do not recommend this. 0 stars. I'm still digging my way out of that one financially, okay? So don't do that. So that's the thing, even worse, I invested all that time and money collecting art supplies that I never even got to use because I was so exhausted and sick from that job. But I've stopped working there since. It's been a while, so I feel a lot better now. But it took a while. I was still getting sick for a long time after. Last year, I discovered soft pastels, and I started drawing realistic animals. And honestly, it's been really interesting. You know, I learned a lot about light and color theory and how colors play together, and it's probably the first time that I've really learned anything about art in a long time. And I still do it. I am still doing it. I am working on a squirrel right here. So far, it's just leaves. It will be a squirrel. But I've been thinking too much. I am starting to get the same feelings now that I was getting in my teens. The only difference is that now I know where those feelings are coming from. It's because I'm still just copying things. I am not taking any artistic license and making it my own. If you look at my pastel drawings, they are, if I do say so myself, and I've had other people tell me that they are beautiful, but personally I don't see myself in them. I just see the copy of the reference image. I am straight up copying the reference photograph, whether I took it or not. It doesn't really make a difference to me. So yeah, that's what I realized. I was just copying things and I wasn't making any meaningful connections in my brain while I was copying those things. I was copying mindlessly. I wasn't paying attention to the relationship between elements that made up that art. So I never really learned anything. I just became a glorified, if inefficient, photocopier. And that's why my old originals were never any good, or even close to the fan art I was making. My imagination was unable to reference reality to make its vision whole. And the solution is actually super simple and kind of ironic. It's to use a reference image. It's what I've been doing all along. The problem is I was just taking it at face value instead of digging deeper and taking the elements that I needed from the reference photo to make my own art. And this is what I need to start doing. That's the solution. I need to drill it into my brain that just because I'm using a reference photo doesn't mean I have to copy the whole thing. That's really important. Take what I need, leave the rest. And I feel a bit silly that I was only able to identify and describe this like literally a week ago. I'm 36 now. This problem started when I was in my teens. It's a bit silly. It was by making these Zen doodles. Because these doodles, they're not supposed to look like anything. There is no reference image. Maybe the reference image is the pattern, and then you continue the pattern into the square and into the next space, and you do a different pattern in that next space. It's not something you really need to think about. It doesn't need to look good. It looks interesting at the end, but that's not the point. The point is to have something to focus on that frees your mind from restrictions, and I think that's what I needed. Making these doodles isn't supposed to look like anything, so that's why it was so freeing. My mind felt really at peace while I was doing it, and it was a very strange feeling for me. But, you know, I'm glad I did it because I was able to identify my problem, and now I know how to fix it. So the plan for this segment of my art journey is to just experiment with all the supplies I've gotten in the last 3 years, experiment with different styles, and most importantly, telling myself that nothing that I'm doing is wrong. Like, I'm expecting ugly art, okay? Like, I'm gonna be learning these things as I go. I need to stop caring. There is no wrong. There is only the process. The process and the explorations are what are important. And if the outcome of a piece I do is, in my opinion, no good, I'll just look at it, analyze it, decide what I like, what I don't like, and take the lesson from it and keep going from there. Because that's all you can do. What am I gonna do? Waste art supplies? They're going to waste right now. It's just paint, it's just markers, it's just paper, it doesn't matter. That's the reason they exist, is so that you can do this. I aim to find an art style that is me, that feels right, that feels natural, and that more importantly will evolve on its own without too much interference from this guy right here who thinks that it knows better and wants to protect me, but is really just stopping me from doing the things I want to do in life. I know now that making art is what I want to do with my life, and if I can make a living with it along the way, then so be it. That would be the icing on the cake, honestly. So what you can expect from me from here on out is exploring different media. I want to learn things like charcoal, watercolor, acrylic. I have all that stuff, so I mean, why not use it? I have a stack of art books. Obviously, that was part of the art supplies that I bought and never used. I have a huge stack of art books. And maybe we could look through those together, and I'll give you my thoughts as I make progress. I'd love to hear about your relationship with art in the comments. Any obstacles you've overcome or are still in the process of overcoming, any roadblocks you've hit, and any triumphs you've had. We like to hear the good stuff too, not just the bad. It just happens that I'm starting my journey from a pretty low point right now. Thanks for sticking with me. Like and subscribe to follow my journey, and hopefully it will inspire you and make you feel less alone on your own journey. Start now. You can do it.